Hello and welcome to the Next in Line podcast, where we are helping to prepare you for whatever is next in line. As always, I am your host, Chance Pitts, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into this episode. Guys and gals, welcome into another episode of the podcast here. I'm very thankful that you chose to stop here and listen to this episode today as it came out. Guys, we are meeting today with the crew of Rocky Raccoon, including the racer, Mr. Billy Pitts, after kind of getting some time to get together, hit a workout, talk, and unpack everything that was that 32-hour race out there in Huntsville, Texas. It was a crazy, crazy emotional experience. It honestly was very, very inspiring. For those of y'all that have seen it on social media, if you haven't, go check it out at Next in Line Development on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. There's that awesome finish, crazy finish that my dad had there. But what we did today is we answered some of the questions that people had for Mr. Billy Pitts, but also just ran through everything that was Rocky Raccoon, the trail, the crew, the pacers, the overall race experience, and then, of course, the disastrous circumstances that found us in the latter part of the races that my dad powered through and did a phenomenal job overcoming. So without any further ado, guys, you know what? First, before that, if you receive something from this episode of the podcast, and I know you will, because the guys we have in this episode are just jam up good, and the story that we're telling is a phenomenal one. If you receive value from that, guys, share the show with someone who could receive that same value or get that same kind of experience, guys. That's the number one way for us to grow and to continue to help more people. And that's what we're trying to do here more than anything else, is just inspire people with the actions that we're doing here. Now, guys, how you do that, just take a screenshot, share it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever you got, Twitter. But guys, besides that, I'm really excited to jump into this podcast. So without any further ado, guys, here is today's episode, the Rocky Raccoon post-race interview. All right, we are back in here, actually in the podcast studio this time, on the other side of Rocky Raccoon 100.
Woo!
Joined today by Mr. Michael Ruiz, pacer and crew member. Mr. Lane Divin, pacer and crew member. Of course, myself, Mr. Chance Pitts, pacer, crew member. Billy Pitts, the racer, and crew chief over there, Mr. Mark Wilmoth. So, guys, it was fun.
It was a blast.
At least. Yeah, I think we all learned a lot.
Yes, we learned a lot. It was fun and it was tough.
It was. If you're watching on YouTube, in the middle of the table here, if you can make it out on the camera, the awesome Rocky Raccoon 100 buckle has been obtained. I know a lot of y'all, if you follow us on social media, that's at Next in Line Development on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Shameless plug every time. Just coming from you.
You go.
If you saw it there, you saw that crazy finish. It was awesome. It was emotional. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to check it out. But before we jump into that conversation, kind of want to start and do a little bit of chronological order here and just work through this whole entire process. So first things first, we got a lot of the crew and pacers here. I thought the logistics of the race, all the game plan, putting everything together, went really smooth. I don't know what y'all's opinions are on that.
Yeah, we showed up. We found that spot right there near the start, set everything up. And everybody was just on it, man, just ready to go, pulling gear and setting things up and getting you ready to start out.
You guys were fantastic. Y'all met me every time I needed you to at the aid stations. You had me food ready to eat. I couldn't ask for anything else. The pacers, you guys were great. It was really perfect. I can't complain at all.
You know, it's actually starting to feel like we're getting these things somewhat figured out.
We are learning a little bit.
After yours was kind of rough trying to figure out.
It was rough for everyone. It was rough for me figuring out the race, let alone a crew of guys that really, and gals that haven't necessarily been around this thing before, and I didn't know what to tell y'all to do or anything too, but man, the group of people that we have around us, all of us, the significant others of everyone in this room pretty much as well.
Tough.
Absolutely.
Just jam up good. Made this for a really, really good thing. And as far as that goes, I know we had your bottles prepped. We had pacers join in at that 50-mile mark, just getting things ready to roll. It was a cool experience, and getting out there on the trail as pacers, the three of us, we figured out a lot about the course that you had figured out a long time. I don't know if you want to give a little rundown of the Rocky Raccoon 100 course out there.
It was like pretty smooth on the front half, possibly, but it had been raining out there previously, and so it was sloppy, muddy in spots, and then parts of it, you were tripping over tree roots and things like that, especially in the second half of the course, and which I'd let you guys know that when you get out there, watch the tree roots, because the tree roots were terrible. Got me, I know I stumbled my feet on them at least 100 times, jarring my whole back and everything in the process. But the course was really not too bad, except for the tree roots and the mud and water that you had to get through it from time to time. But not too tough.
Yeah, I thought the same. I think elevation-wise, there wasn't a crazy amount of elevation or anything, but it was enough to make you feel it, right?
Yes, it was. I think I was looking on my Garmin and was talking about over the entire 100 miles, it was like 6,700 feet a total.
It's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible.
Pretty flat in southeast Texas for the most part.
Right.
Along with that, I mean, just a general breakdown, what we ended up finding, there was aid stations every 5 miles. At the 10-mile mark was the one that we met you at very regularly, and swapped in and out pacers. It's 10 and 20 at the start line.
Right.
But the course was kind of, because of that, broke up into 2 sections. In my mind, I don't know if you saw that too, but
that's kind of how it was. The front half was a little quicker, and it was about a 9 and some change on the mileage. And y'all would meet me at that halfway point with the fresh electrolyte bottles, and we'd switch them out. And then the second half, that about 11-ish mile stretch, that's where you got into the more uneven terrain and the tree roots and those kind of things, and a few more water puddles and things like that to get through. But it was challenging, of course, but yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that kind of covers the crew beginnings of it and the rundown just of the trail. But I think what we're really here to talk about is the meat of this race. I mean, guys, feel free to jump in too on how y'all were feeling at certain points. But I mean, run us through that 100 miles from the get-go. If you want to break it down by laps, there's 5 20-mile laps, or however you want to do it. But give us a little bit of insight. How are you feeling going into that race whenever you're towing the start line under the big Hoka banner?
Well, one thing I want to say, too, about the trail is they did a heck of a job marking the trail. The trail was well taken care of, considering the weather conditions we had going into that week. So the Tejas Trails did an excellent job on that thing out there. So I just want to throw that out there. But, we started the race. It was 34 degrees. It was, 6 a.m. and
Chilly.
It was a little chilly, and on that front part, I was thinking, well, I'm running a pace kind of I want to run. I feel pretty good. It feels comfortable, and of course, met you guys for the water bottle exchange, and then got on the second half of it into the tree roots, and I'm like, all right, that pace I was thinking about is not going to happen.
Kind of saw some 24-hour dreams going.
Yeah, 24-hour dreams went pretty quick in that first loop. I said, this is probably not going to happen. So then I was like, well, 26 or 28 maybe. So that's more what I was thinking. And really, you guys were just doing such a great job hitting me with everything I needed. I started eating right away at the aid stations. I didn't want to get behind on nutrition. I made that mistake before. So everything was really in autopilot, going pretty smooth for most of the race, really. And when you guys came into pace, that was definitely a positive, uplifting moment for me, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, part of that quickness at the aid stations, that was a lot of your preparedness. You had that stuff squared away in those boxes, just stacked and organized. It looked like, I don't know, like a tackle box or something, man. And so it was easy to find everything. And then, of course, Chance and Lane were very familiar with your setup and where to find everything. So that made things real easy.
I'd seen some other racers do that, put it in some clear boxes where you could see exactly what it was you wanted, and had everything just sorted out. And that seemed to go really smooth. I didn't notice any problems at all, no hiccups at all in that whole You guys are on point.
So I don't know if you want to jump through. I don't know if I'm going to jump in your list or not.
No,
we
come
were
on.
looking at your Garmin afterwards, right? You said about the nutrition, where the one race you ran, you got behind on nutrition. So this one
Right.
you wanted to stay in front of it, and you know that you're going to burn through a ton of fuel. But we were looking at his Garmin afterwards, and we've been laughing all along. So we're surprised that your watch didn't say tilt or error. But it was, what, 12,000 calories is what you burnt over this race?
It was like 12,600.
Right, and so what
calories.
your average daily intake's, what, 2 to 3? So here you burnt through 3 to 4 days worth of calories, in that time period. So to say that you can't, if you get behind on nutrition, that you can't catch up, that kind of really drives that point home.
Yeah,
That you
absolutely.
really got to start on the front end.
It does.
You could eat quite a few Big Macs with
Right.
that
Yeah,
kind of
right,
budget
right.
and still not be back at zero.
Yeah. And I heard a lot of racers talk about if you wait until, oh, hey, I need to eat, I feel hungry, or I need a drink, I feel thirsty. It's too late.
It's
Right.
way too late.
You're already
Yeah.
behind the curve, and so
Even in shorter races.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
playing catch up can be pretty miserable in that. But everything was on point. I don't think I tried to cramp at all the entire run with my legs. My legs felt fantastic.
Yeah.
Except for tweaking the ankle a little bit early on,
Oh.
but
Which products did you use to keep from cramping up? Electrolyte mix and what were you using there?
I was using G1M from Bear Performance Nutrition. That's what y'all were mixing up into my water bottles every time. So I was drinking a scoop in each 12-ounce bottle, really about every 5 miles. So I was
Okay.
doing that, and then just drinking water, and then I would still hit some pickles and hit some salt tabs every once in a while at the aid stations. So just stayed on top of that side of it. It worked great.
Okay.
And that G1M's an electrolyte mixed with about 100 calories worth of carbs.
It's
right?
got some carbs in there. Yep, and it just keeps you going. And I used that throughout the entire race. It never bothered my stomach. I never had any stomach issues at all. Everything was good and smooth. And that was one thing I was kind of concerned about. But it also allowed me to stay off of the goo and the Martin gels. I didn't get into that until like way late in the race. So
Which is great.
yeah,
Because those things, if you stack them too much and you're taking way too much in at a certain time, you will mess up your stomach. So that's good.
I was using some Revy's caffeine strips, but I didn't really go into those until the second half of the race. I started doing a little bit of that, but
Yeah, that's pretty late when you started taking those.
yeah, I really kept it just wanted to keep it real food as long as I could, and keep my body going, processing that food, and I figured that would be my best shot at not having stomach issues in there.
Yeah.
Well, then didn't you start taking like some Tylenol or something at one point?
I did because of the ankle. I probably got a high ankle sprain on my left ankle, probably about 35 miles in on one of them tree roots. And it would stove up every time I came around to the 20-mile checkpoint and would sit down at the camp and maybe eat a hamburger or whatever. And then once I got to going again, I'd have to ease into loosening the ankle back up and then take off again. So
Right, but I thought we were talking earlier this week that you said you may have overdid it with the Tylenol.
I may have at the end of the race. I was probably trying to be too preventative on the ankle. I didn't want it to hinder me, so I probably took a little more than I should have. I don't know that had a lot to do with anything at the end of the race. We can get into that, but
Well, right, but I mean,
Yeah.
as far as the learning curve goes, right? Because you said there was, you went to see some doctor visits and numbers are a little off.
yeah, numbers were a little off actually on the liver because of the Tylenol during that race. So I know why, and my urologist was like, "We understand what's going on, so we'll just give it a little time; it'll correct itself." So, so that's the only thing like that in the blood work that I noticed afterwards. So I try to keep good track of my blood work going into the race, after the race, trying to see what's going on with my body and check those things out. So, but the urologist, she wasn't worried about that at all. She was like, "Oh, this explains what happened. Everything else looks fantastic. So just, take time to recover and we'll move forward from there." So everything went pretty good though.
So that's a testament, though, to your preparedness for it, that, you didn't have any kind of not necessarily any long-term injuries. There's, nothing was jacked up, messed up from the race. So, I mean, there's a big positive takeaway from that.
Well, I really felt like after the race, a couple of days after, if I hadn't had the high ankle sprain, I really felt like I could have gone out and jogged some. I really did. I mean, because the normal hips and knees and all of that, they didn't bother me at all.
Right.
So a little sore, of course, but other than that, it was just, I could have probably done a little light jog just to keep the legs stretched out afterwards. So
that's good. I know one thing Mark kind of asked about earlier. I think you were getting some coffee ready for the podcast, but was there anything in your training schedule that you think would have made it more successful on as far as your outing whenever you came out for this 100-mile race? Is there anything you would change? Is there anything that you, looking back, you might have done a little differently going into it? Or
I think for the next one, I'm going to definitely work in more tempo runs, more hill work, and things like that. I'm gonna really focus on that a little bit more to push my VO2 max up a little bit more also, but just to get my body more, and plus train a little bit more on the trails. I ran a lot of it on back roads, gravel roads, things like that, with a little bit of trail, but not near enough. So I need to mix some more of those things in because when you run out there and you're on tree roots and rocks and things like that, you're going to tweak and force your ankles and joints and everything to have to deal with off camber, placing your weight down in the wrong kind of, not natural kind of motions. And so you got to get your body used to that. Plus, I think I need to work on some more core work, strengthen my core, hips and all that kind of stuff, but lower body and just middle core and all that to build up for the next race, I think.
yeah, I think that's something to be helpful. You hear a lot of runners talk about that core strength and the role that it does play in your running and being resilient enough to hang in there for these long races. So I think that's something that's going to be really, really big as I go through my race plan as well. Kind of learning a little bit vicariously through you. And you mentioned, so 36 miles, your high ankle sprain. Is that when you first kind of had, because you're used to running 30-mile training runs, 28-mile training runs. Is that really when kind of your first, I don't know, pain cave or speed bump or whatever you want to call it, your little bit of wall you had to fight against? Is that when that came in?
Maybe a little bit of wall. I wouldn't say it wasn't anything too serious. It was, I knew I had done something to my ankle. I knew it wasn't serious enough that I was going to have to stop. And I knew I needed to keep moving to keep it mobile and from stoving up on me. And so I just, it was a little bit of a mental, it probably slowed me down a tick a little bit more than I wanted to. And that probably, overall slowed me down and kept me from hitting some of the goals I was thinking I was going to hit. I can't complain a whole lot. I mean, if you're twisted that early and you're able to keep on moving, I think that was, it ended up being a positive thing, really.
For sure. It might have taken your mind off of some other things, too, that you're probably out there dealing with.
That's a great point because, you stop worrying about pace so much. You stop worrying about, I got to push myself this and that, and you just more focused on just taking care of my body and get myself through the thing. So that's kind of how my thoughts kind of shifted.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're good.
No, I was just going to ask, did you have any issues staying present in parts of those races, or where were you with on that?
I don't think I really did. Before you guys came along, probably that 40 to 50 mile zone in there kind of got where it was kind of like autopilot, and I had to watch myself, make sure I wasn't slowing down too much and all that kind of stuff, because I was just kind of cruising. And as you're out there by yourself with your headlamp on and you're just kind of going. And so I was like, all right, got to keep a little bit of eye on the pace, push myself a little bit. And then once you guys came in, it was immediate energy lift and a pump, and you guys were good pushing me into pushing the pace a little bit for me. And that got me back on track. So I felt like there was a little lull in there, in that point between that, especially in that 40 to 50 mile point. So it's kind of.
At 40 to 50 miles, what point of the night is that? I mean, you've been at 40 to 50 miles. You've been up. Are we back at nighttime? You've been up 12, 14 hours.
Yeah,
Where did you guys jump in at?
First pacer came in at
I'm not sure what time I went
7
in.
or 8.
I say it's shortly after sunset. I feel like
Okay.
because I started running around 11 o'clock at night. So
So
if
that's
I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. While before we jump into the Pacers, I definitely had that experience as well. In that race that I did, the Habanero 100, was there was definitely a little bit of a lull and just kind of all right, let's sustain, let's survive and get through the 40 to 50 because I'm about to have somebody come join me. It's going to be a little bit of relief, and you expect a little bit of a almost a mental
pick
break.
me up.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
a shot of
it's-
caffeine.
It's definitely a mental pickup for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, leading perfectly into that, first pacer comes in, Michael at mile 50 at the aid station to go run the back half at night. Y'all want to kind of run us through how that went?
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. I showed up and you were cracking jokes, and I was like, "Man, he's looking good." I honestly, wasn't sure you needed me to jump in at that point, but maybe you're just up because you're at the aid station. Those aid stations they amp you up a little bit, getting in there, and getting some food.
For sure. I know I'm gonna get recharged, and I'm gonna get some food. I'm gonna see my crew there, and so that's definitely a pump up. So. But yeah, I think I joking around and I said, man, I think I came in at about 9.5 minute pace those last 3 miles, and I wanted to see your eyes get big.
Michael's eyes got real
Yeah,
big.
it shocked me because you texted me when you signed up for the race. You were like, "Hey, I'm signing up for this Rocky Raccoon." I said, "Hey, you need a crew?" Because I was excited because we had done Chance's race, and I was like, "That was a good time. I would love to come out there and pace you for that." And then you said those words, and I was like, I might have messed up here.
No, I mean it was great when you came in and ran that back half with all the tree roots.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you kept telling us about them tree roots, and I said, "Oh, it's just a little bit of tree roots, whatever." And I tell you, my pinky toe was showing me that was a little bit cocky there because. At the beginning, I was fresh, and I was dodging those tree roots, and I was like, okay, they're not that bad. And we got a couple miles in, and I started hitting them. And at one point, I went down hard.
You did.
I was running a little bit ahead of you, and I glanced back to see where you were at, and I hit one of those and just drove my shoulder into the dirt. But
In road shoes, may we add.
In road shoes. In my fresh white road shoes.
Pearly white.
They were
icy
white.
New ultras, yeah.
Now they're a nice shade of brown. But
They are a little tan. It's okay.
But that's the other thing is I run almost exclusively on roads or sidewalk, pavement, and I never hit the trails. So that was a brand new experience for me. We did 11, and that cooked me off pretty good. I was not ready for the technicality of it. I mean, I think I performed well enough to pace you out, but...
You did. You did a great job. I was going to ask you what you thought about trail running now.
Honestly, it was a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Trying to pick your way. I mean, sometimes I'm trying to pick my way through the mud with a headlamp in the dark, and you can't judge how deep a section of mud is with that, and my feet got pretty wet. But other than that, it's kind of fun going out there and just being in nature among the trees, bounding around the trail like a deer. But
And you did that all on the heels of a less than a month prior to that, running your first marathon too in Houston.
yeah, which that was making me nervous a little bit because I was having a little bit of problems with my feet coming off of that. And so we started hitting those tree roots, and my dogs were barking. But we got it done. You kept asking me, hey, make sure you're all right. And, it was pretty tough for me, but I wasn't going to show that to you because I'd gotten a talking to.
You want to go into that?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I got a little bit of a talking to before I signed up, before I walked up and started pacing you.
Yeah?
Because apparently when
bit.
we were doing the Habanero 100, I was going through a couple things in my life, and I hopped into Pace Chance, and he said, "Oh, hey, how are things going?" And I just hit him with the honesty right off the bat. "Oh, not too good."
Your job as a pacer is to pace and keep them moving.
Uplift.
Biggest thing, yeah, uplift and motivate. And
Yeah, I was just like, I'm gonna keep talking to him. I'm just gonna talk to him like we always talk, and we got into that, and I didn't even notice that it took a toll on you. But you told me that as we were heading on the way up to the aid station, like, "Hey, man, not to say anything about you or anything, but watch what you say."
Just be mindful, right?
And that opened my eyes. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna. No weakness.
I think it's a part of that learning curve that we have. We hadn't done a whole lot of this. We have to almost put our mind into the guy that's running a race and think about what he needs to hear at the time too. And so, like when he was running at Habanero, I mean, he got into some pretty dark places at the end of that race. And
very much so.
So he needed some positive pick me up too. So it's all a learning process. You were great. You were great, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Actually, you falling took my mind off of me a little bit more, and it worked.
You
it worked.
overperformed,
And we were moving pretty good. When we come back across that dam, we were hauling pretty good across there.
Yeah. Oh, that was so pretty at night, hitting across that dam, and you just see the whole camp because you got to run around the lake, and so we hit the other side of that, and you can just see all the lights glittering off of the water. You can hear the music from the start line, and that was a cool experience, man. But
That was a nice place all around. I mean, just not for the race, but that is a beautiful park.
For sure.
Most of the organizations in Texas do a great job of finding places that are just jam up good. Even Brazos Bend's a fun one. I don't know that it's community wise quite as big as that was, but it's a really cool and enjoyable place. Really, every race.
Well, you brought that up, and I don't know we ever brought that up before. This is my first experience with anything like this, and I didn't realize how big a deal this was until you started telling me that it's a Western qualifier. So, I mean, this was a big ordeal. This was the Indianapolis, man. This was a 500. Daytona. This was a big deal.
Yeah, people come out and compete at this thing.
Yeah,
we
were looking at. There was people from Canada,
from all over
Hawaii. I think there was a couple from Hawaii.
Y'all remember what the winner's time was?
Like 14:45, I believe.
Something.
Yeah.
I think he broke 14.
I think he broke 14
right
too.
under.
I think it was, yeah.
Oh, was it right under?
It was fast. But to see some of that, that just tells you that this definitely. So that's a great point. This is a big deal. This is a big event, big race.
And I'll bring something up as we talked about it earlier, that he ran a little half marathon down there in Fredericksburg that time, and you see a lot of these very colorful outfits and very colorful people and animated people, and to me, and I'm not a runner, so I mean I'm outside looking in, but there's these people, look at me, I'm so pretty, I'm a runner. There wasn't none of that at this place. I mean, this thing was serious, man.
No,
these people were serious, and they were out there. It was impressive.
Yeah, it is I'm gonna go make myself better. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, this was all business.
Yeah,
it was all business, and it's impressive.
And go ahead.
But a great group of people. I mean, just cordial, encouraging, positive, and everybody's trying to encourage everybody to do their best. And it was no kind of. You didn't feel like anybody was looking down on you or anything like that. Yeah. No matter how fast or slow you were.
That I think as the level improves and gets higher and higher, that comes out more and more. All the BS stops, and the professionalism comes out in it.
Another side of that too. I mean, we left bags with all kinds of stuff in them in the back of the truck, and
right. Yeah, nothing stuff.
Nothing. We didn't worry about anything.
You made the comment that over at the trailer, and we left the trailer unattended for hours, and you said there's what $3,000 worth of weights sitting at the trailer.
Probably so. We had. I don't know how many pairs of adjustable boat plates, dumbbells, bumper plates, benches, all kinds of stuff that we brought out there to lift with, and none of it was touched.
No.
It's just a jam-up good group of people that are all there for the same reason.
Dude, I was impressed at that. Y'all were maintaining your 75 hard in between my loops and then coming out and meeting me. You never missed a beat. I was just like blown away. That's awesome.
You had a long day coming back.
Whew, that was rough, man.
Yeah, the worst time was 75 hard on that.
We'll get into that, but yeah.
We'll get into that. That was my fault on that, I'll be honest.
it-
Yeah.
So one of the rules for 75 hard is your workouts have to be 3 hours apart. And if you don't make them 3 hours apart, or if you keep working out for more than 3 hours, you cannot count them as 2 workouts. Like, it's just not how it works. So that's what we're alluding to a little bit. But that's a little bit later in the race. The next benchmark will probably be the pacer swap out back up at the finish line once Michael had his tumble and ran his back routes and stayed very motivating and positive on the back end. But
Hey, he was great. He was
heck
great.
yeah. But that's where Lane Divin came in.
Absolutely.
I think you also was that when you decided to eat, or was that prior to that?
We had a burger because I
Yeah.
ate shortly right before you showed up.
Okay.
That was your first bigger meal per se.
I couldn't remember exactly where. Yeah.
Did
Yep.
burger at the start line there at mile 60. Joined by Lane Divin to go out and take on the first, like you said, 9 and some change, but 9.5 or so miles of that front section. Still in the dark. I think you ran with him
Was.
about 11.
Yeah, it's about 11 o'clock at night. So getting out there fresh in the dark, man. You know, running trails that you haven't ran before, and it's kind of like how it was for me in Habanero.
Yeah.
Hey, Lane did great also. He was pushing the pace on me too, and he was having me yell and everything out there, getting me fired up. So it was great.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump in here on that because, well, even when you took over, when Michael took over, and then when Lane took over, I was in the camper asleep. I was in a warm bed under a bunch of blankets with the heater going, right? And hats off to your all's significant others, because every single one of those girls stayed out there under that canopy in the cold, folded up in a doggone lawn chair trying to catch some sleep. And I kept begging them and telling them, come back to the camper. There's plenty of room. There's heat. You know, you can get a decent night's sleep or at least a couple hours sleep. And they stuck out there for the entire thing. They did not, well, as far as I know, I don't think any one of them come back to the camper to sleep. They all stayed there, curled up on you were on the ground, and I mean, yeah, hats off to them. Cause,
Absolutely.
It was unbelievable to see
They
that.
weren't just taking care of Billy; they were taking care of us as well.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It was
Making
man,
yeah, see,
that's-
I wimped out. I went back to the cabin, back to the trailer. So
that's what I love about our group, our group of people, and our family here. Is like we all try to help each other out and take care of each other, and it was just outstanding to see. And I made y'all go the whole duration too.
Yeah. I mean, it was a long race, but it was a great race. I will say that. And so you were out there on the trails, chopping it up with him, going through the night, and y'all looked pretty good coming into the aid station. I mean, y'all both looked strong. You looked like you were still feeling really good. That was mile 70, I think.
It was 60 to 70.
Right, yeah, right around 60 something.
Yep. And I mean, I think for our pace, we were maintaining mid-14s when we were actually moving. You know, on the backside of our loop, you know, it feels like you're going uphill both ways. Because you going straight up that big hill, leaving the aid station.
Right, yeah.
And coming back, it seems like you're still going uphill, but
I noticed that while I was out there.
it's kind of weird.
It's kind of deceptive on there, yeah.
You almost get built up a little bit, and you let yourself get a little bit high thinking about the coming back downhill on the
Downhill.
other side, and then it's not there.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I had that issue with myself. I was like, all right, we got to get him moving. You know, we're going to keep pushing the pace a little bit. And I was like, man, like there's always another hill to go back over, and we're not moving. So, but no, I mean, we ended up knocking it out pretty good. Overall, you know, it seemed like you stayed mostly positive whenever I was with you. You know, there's a couple times I had to pull a Goggins trick on you, and you know, keep you positive and keep you moving. But overall, I think you did pretty solid, 60 to 70.
Yeah, it was a solid. That was a solid stretch of it right there. You were pushing me. You're pushing me, and getting me to yell, and I mean like really yell.
Yeah, same thing I did to you, Chance.
Hey, it psychological warfare out there,
Yeah.
man. It
Yeah.
did wonders.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to say exactly what we said, but you know, it was positive and motivating. We'll leave it at that.
There we
For
go.
sure.
You know, I mean, it's something, you know, we all talk about 3 of 7 and chat, right, and everything, and, you know, going through that process and truly immersing yourself in those thoughts of being positive, being proactive. like, no, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep on going. And that's essentially what it is. So.
Well, you kind of take that motivator role too, just in general. I know we hit a pretty good workout before this.
We did.
Put them through a little bit of the torture chamber out there in the gym before this. But
that was a great workout.
yeah, just the other thing was that I guess where I was going with that is you'd hear Lane yelling across the gym at people. Just,
Yeah.
Keep going, push it out.
Yeah, finish. So I definitely think that comes natural to you, and that was cool to see. And while we're out there too, you got the old cold plunge done out there, Michael, huh?
Yeah.
That was rough.
3 minutes, man.
That's awesome, man.
41.5 degrees. That's
That was a lot tougher than I thought it would be. I thought I wasn't ready for it. I went in first time and I crawled back out of that thing. So we went back in and did the full 3 minutes, and that's an experience. I'll leave it at that. I don't think I liked it very much.
It's a huge mental thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a mental hurdle that you got yourself through. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Shoot, yeah, that's awesome.
So then after mile 70, I joined you, or about 69-ish,
Mm-hmm.
I joined you at the Nature Center aid station to jump
Yeah.
in. What the plans of swapping back out with Lane
Yeah.
for running 10 each, basically,
We
till
can-
the end.
We can dive into that here in a little while too.
We sure can. So I jumped in and we did loop 70 to 80. Kind of kept it steady. Didn't really push the tempo a lot.
Yeah, we were
Just
pretty
kept
much cruising.
cruising.
Yeah.
We had some time in the bank that we knew we were going to be pretty much okay, but wanted to keep it steady and got back up to the top. And you were running like a 14-minute pace, running faster than I was. Coming back in off the power line road section right there, and I was like, man, this guy's got a little bit more in the tank. He's holding out on us. So we came around and hit mile 80. The crew was there to welcome us, had a great job. By that time it was
We had another burger there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
5, 6. I think it was somewhere around 6 in the morning.
Yeah, Lane hooked us up with another burger.
That's right.
And this is another learning curve thing here. We should probably not leave it up to whoever's running to decide who's going to pace you, because I don't know why. I said, well, let's have Chance go back out again. I wasn't thinking at all. I made Chance run 31.5 miles in a row, which also messed up his 75 hard, which when we got about a quarter mile out, I said, oh, crap, you're not going to get your second workout in right here.
You were yelling at me to turn around.
I told him to turn around, go get Lane,
I was
go
like,
get him.
shut up, go just
He's
run.
like, I ain't doing it, let's go. I was like, oh, man. I was like, don't let me make that decision. That's a learning curve, really. We need to, because at that point, I'm not sure I'm thinking real clearly at that point, and making those decisions. And Lane was strong on his loop. He could have gone out and did a great job for me. He'd already run that part of it again.
Yeah.
He could have pushed me on through it, no problem. And I made a bad call on that one. But it was just, I don't think I was all thinking right.
Well, it also needs to be your crew being a little bit smarter too, because I'm the kind of person that it ain't going to scare me ever to go out and run 31 miles, but
I know.
maybe that's not the smart thing to do sometimes, right? So
Well, I think it comes back to the trust in your plan, because we did plan on switching back out, but I could tell that you didn't quite want to stop just yet.
yeah,
And with me and where you were where you were in your race at that point, I haven't been that far mileage wise, obviously, but I knew Chance had been. So if there was something that was going to start going wrong, I didn't fully trust myself to catch we need to slow it down, or we're still good to push, or whatever it may be, which is, I think, also kind of played into that decision too. So.
and hindsight 22, I think you would have pushed him and done really well through that last section prior to the final 10, but I think because we pushed pretty
We
dang
did.
hard.
We pushed hard on
80
that.
to 90.
80 to 90, we were moving.
We were moving really quick. I think all of our miles were in the 16-minute mile pace at that point, which was comparatively very quick.
Because I think you text them and let them know that, hey, we're going to be hitting that Nature Center aid center
Way early.
aid station earlier than planned.
Yeah, so we were cruising, and I guess it's time to get into that conversation. It actually, that was very beneficial, is what I will say, because you ran into some hardships on the backside of that trail. Of course, by that time, it was getting into midday, so it was starting to warm up quite a bit. We were feeling really good, so we were pushing the pace a little bit, leaving it all out there, because you had told me before the race you didn't want to feel like you had anything left in the tank when we came back.
I wanted to see what we could do, and we were passing people.
We were
passing people coming out at Nature Center aid station. We started passing people, and we were moving pretty good.
Well, that kind of goes back into the whole, did we do the right thing? Because had, I ran that 80 to 90 with you, we wouldn't have been running. I don't think I would have pushed you as hard as Chance did, because I wouldn't have registered like, oh, he's still booking at 15 miles or 15 minutes per mile. And it's like, well, had you had that reserve energy, had that back half been as rough as it was. So
it's hard to say. We can second,
you never know,
we can second guess it every, all of it. But I think next time if we end up doing this again, we just stick to the game plan and go where you guys just tell me, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
we got this. You just run. You just worry about running and keeping your body fueled. We'll take care of the pacing. And I think that's the way it should be, if we're pacing for each other. Because you guys kind of got a good handle, and you're observing me. You're observing everything. You know how you feel. And I think we should that was probably one of the mistakes that was made in there. And I take full credit for that. So,
but it worked out the way it needed to, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
I think it did.
Well, mostly just because of the incident on the back end of it.
Yeah,
I definitile needed you
Which
on
is
that back
unprecedented.
half.
Absolutely.
which, getting into that, do you want to, 92, 93, you want to get into that?
Yeah, well, like I said, we were passing people, and about 8 miles left to go, I felt the back spasm. And I was like, you got to be kidding. And I was still able to push a decent pace for a while and able to go. But then after, I don't know, maybe like 6 miles to go or so, it got to where I had to get some tree limbs to use as trekking poles, and just it was pretty rough. And the pace is slow. We made it to that last aid station, and coming out of there, it was feeling pretty rough. And we made sure and fueled up really well. We took off out of there, and just the pace continued to slow. The back spasms grew. They started out like lower left in the one spot, and then it just kept expanding, and all the way up like my middle of my back, lower back to middle of the back by the time it was said and done. And I think at one point we stopped, and I've been sweating like crazy because I was using those tree limbs as trekking poles.
Well, when you say your back locked up too, not to cut you off, but we're talking you were hunched over.
Yeah,
You could not stand up straight.
I couldn't stand up straight, and
barely run at times.
I had a history of lower back issues years ago before I got into shape. I had like chronic issues and stuff, because I was overweight and everything. But since I'd gotten in shape, it hadn't really been much of an issue, but I'd never tried to go 100 miles either. So
yeah, over those tree roots and that jarring motion that you probably felt for.
I think for sure it was a combination of the fatigue, the distance, and the tree roots for sure played a part in all of that. But yeah, so I started sweating a whole lot, and then we stopped, and I took the leggings off I had on, and I actually took my shirt off and just went with the hydration vest with no shirt on to try to cool down. And I went from sweating to not sweating at all, which was not a good sign.
Yeah, and at that point, your pace went from slowing to crawling.
Crawling.
We were looking at it. What you had for 2 miles, there was 1 mile took you 43 minutes, another mile took you 45.
Yeah, the last 2 miles were really rough. Talk about a pain cave or a dark place, or how you want to look at it. I said I wanted to experience some hard stuff, and I wanted to push myself to the end, and to the limits, and I think I kind of did. But yeah, the lower back really was. I couldn't believe the lower back was giving me issues after such a race. going 90 miles and feeling so great and nothing's going wrong, and then all of a sudden that lower back changes everything. So I think we were looking at I was thinking we were going to finish around 30 hours or maybe try to break that point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We had 2 hours to spare,
Yeah.
is what we were looking at. We're like, man, let's just do the best time we can and cruise in and be comfortable with
Yeah.
it. And it changed very quickly we were worried.
Yeah, I got.
Whenever
You
you
had the
stopped,
whole crew sweating at the
Yeah.
camp.
well, yeah, I'm about to ask that question, but we got to the point too of whenever you stopped, started pouring sweat, and then stopped sweating, and you were having to stop very, very regularly. I was medically concerned that we might have to pull you out of the race, and at that time I started getting messages from y'all. And do y'all want to run through kind of back at base camp what the crew was thinking at that
So
point?
we were like, of course, I had slept through the night, and so we met you at the 90 mark at the aid station, and I thought you looked, we all thought you looked great at that point. I mean, you were obviously tired, but I mean, you guys even took off out of the aid station at a jog, and so we were all like, "Oh, he got this.
Very
right?
impressive.
This
Yeah,
is in the bag."
That was mile 90.
Yeah, so that was mile 90, and we're like, yeah, it's in the bag. He's got it. So we're sitting there at camp, and then, we're kind of watching the watches, and I don't know, what's that app that Tammy can see where you're at?
That's that Life 360.
Yeah, the Life
360.
360. So she keeps looking at it, and the dot's not moving. It's still in the same spot around the lake, and we're like, well, this ain't good. The phone's messed up. Well, no, and then we started getting the text from you, and we're like, oh, man, this is getting serious. And, at one point you'd, I guess, made some kind of a text about we may have to call a medic. And that's where we really started getting concerned. And then, so I've been joking all week that on my shoulders was the devil and the angel, right? The one guy going bullshit, he can push through this, suck it up and finish this.
Mm-hmm.
The other half's going, man, if you need medical attention, you need to stop. And so that was just going through my head is, does he stop or does he not? That's what was worrying me.
And the thought kept running through my head out there as I'm with him was like, me and you always joke about I'd rather die out on the trail than in a chair somewhere eating Cheetos. And I mean, you had me concerned. It was at that point it started being a possibility in my mind, right?
Yeah, honestly, it ran through my mind as well. Yeah, it was a dark moment for sure. And I didn't know what was going on. And my lower back and my back was just knotting up and everything on me. I didn't know what was going on. There were several times I was like, I'm going to David Goggins this and just take off running and stand up straight. And I would take off running and stand up straight and just bend right back over. Like, no, you're not.
So on that note, how tall are you?
6'3".
Okay, and I've been telling everybody you came across the finish line at 5'9".
Maybe.
So
Maybe, yeah.
And that's no joke. If you haven't seen it, go find the video that Chance posted. Yeah, he come across the line at 5'9".
And there was a lot of things that happened out there for a lot of reasons that you can't really explain. Like us going out there and pushing as hard as we did, miles 80 through 90, and just gaining that time. But we talked about that, banking time so that if anything went wrong, we could take care of it. We didn't know kind of why we were doing it at the time, but now getting close to the end and getting down to the wire.
Well, it was down to the wire, and that goes back to you guys pacing me and everything that y'all did to help me throughout that race. If anything had gone wrong and taken longer than we had planned, wouldn't have finished it.
Yeah,
just a little too long at the aid station, and
yeah, just anything like that. Yeah. So,
and you kept asking me if we had time, and I said, "Man, we still have time. We can do this. Just you got to move though." And you were fighting the trekking pole battle for a while. You'd feel good and you'd throw them down, and then I'd be in the woods 2 minutes later hunting sticks for you to use as trekking poles. And that's another thing we debated on talking about it, but something happened out there that was really hard to explain. And there was a lady that DNF'd. She was out of the race because she wasn't at on her last lap by a certain time.
That's right, yeah.
And she was back in the woods kind of sitting there enjoying nature, I guess recapping on her race and everything. And she noticed you with the sticks and struggling really badly because we had two big, clunky, heavy sticks that were uneven. And she offered you her trekking poles.
She did.
And that made night and day difference.
All the difference in the world.
So the next time you're going to take yours with you.
That's
yes,
right.
I am.
Next time we're going to look harder, too.
Oh man.
Well, and that was the thing. I felt so good at the 90-mile point, I didn't take them. I was like, I don't need these things. We're going to cruise this thing on in. I visualized coming across the finish line with you by my side and just, rocking and rolling on in, no problem. And it's incredible how things change so quickly.
And things got dark, and we started calculating minutes down to what we had available whenever we came to about 99 and a half. With about half mile left. And that's when what was the guy's name?
I think it was Jeff Kraft, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Jeff found us on the trail, and he was starting to come back and encourage people that were close to finishing. And he said, man, if you keep pushing and go at a strong pace, y'all can still finish, because we were sitting there trying to calculate in our head and rationalize and trying to find the motivation to get you to push through and keep going. And it was just this fleeting feeling, right, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And came up upon the race photographer that's at the end of the race about maybe like, I don't know, just under half a mile from the start line. And they were like, man, you can do this. So you started power hiking with those trekking poles and moving. And we came uphill a little bit and started climbing, and there's a section that opens up through the woods, and everybody, of course, the crew had been keeping up with everything. Emotions were high. Everybody was super tense over what was happening, and I just remember that moment, and you can describe what that was for you whenever we broke through that top section right there, and we knew it was going to be down to the wire if you kept moving at the pace you were at, and we saw our entire crew right there, heard them before we saw them.
Yeah.
Just explode with positivity and encouragement.
Well, that was crazy timing, because we were, I don't know we didn't know how accurate that Life 360 app was. So we were debating, do we go, do we stay, when is he going to cross that path? Because there was that one path way back in there, and we finally made it, and you were crossing just as we were running up there. So it worked out perfectly.
So it was funnier than that, because before y'all decided to go look for him, I'm going to go to the restroom, right? And so I did, and then I started walking. I'm like, well, I'm going to see if I can catch him on the trail. So I started walking the trail back. Well, I got all the way back to where you're talking about, where it kind of pops out of the woods. And I'm looking at my watch. It's like 15 minutes till, and I'm like, I don't see him. I'm like, there's no way he's going to make it. So I start back down to where everybody's at. Well, the last kind of word we'd heard from Chance is we may have to call medic. He's in bad shape. Well, I get down there at the starting line where we were all posted up, and everybody's gone. And I'm like, oh, Christ, they called the medics. The call come in, and I done missed it, and I'm panicking like crazy. And I'm like, well, the cars are still here. I'm like, let me text Tammy real quick. And Tammy come back with his wife. Says, we see him. And so then I took off running too. But, yeah, it freaked me out. I was like, oh, man, I missed something bad. And then here he come down the path. And I'm like, man, this is going to get tight.
Looking like a hermit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Shirtless.
So I'm going to go back to what you said. You said, well, I want to finish it and have nothing left on the table. Well, you accomplished that goal, right? And I got where the mental part comes from. I can get behind that I've ran 90 miles. There's no way I'm not finishing this. That part I can get. But I have never seen anybody so exhausted and continue to move. I have no idea where that energy came from.
Seeing everybody come through, and you can speak to this, but just everybody coming through was a game changer right there at the top. And then Jeff actually joined us and was running right beside you, pushing.
Going up that hill, we had I guess he joined us right there as we come out of the woods part. And then there was another hill to go up, and he got on my left side, and he's like, you got to pick it up. And I started power hiking, and he was watching. He's like, at this pace, you're going to make it. You keep going this pace. So he was on the left, Chance was on the right, and he said, if you fall, we got you. And I just kept power hiking, and just bent over like hunchback because I couldn't stand up. And so I'm coming up that hill and digging for all I can to get up the hill, because I knew once I got up that hill it was going to be a slight downhill all the way down. As soon as I got over that hill and started coming down, then I heard y'all hollering. I heard the whole team going crazy over here, and so I power hiked that, and it just pumped me up. I mean, those two guys beside me, you guys carrying on and going crazy, just it was unbelievable. Just pushing me all the way in. I don't know how to describe it. It was just, I couldn't have done it without all y'all there. I just.
You say you power hiked. You started running.
You started running. Yeah.
There was nothing left in the tank. You were hunched over, hurting. Your back was locked up, and you started freaking running. And you were using the trekking poles, and you were pushing the hell out of yourself. But you were driving. You were getting to that finish line come hell or high water. And, I mean, all of us were just amazed watching that.
Yeah, you hear these words like grit and determination, and you know what that means. But until you see something like that, I thought I knew what that meant. And then to see you doing that put a whole new definition to those words.
I'm with you on that one because we've kind of had a couple of conversations, right? Like I was in the Army, and I used to think I'd done some hard shit, but yeah, I have done nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
And
I used to think I'd been, through tired. No, I don't know what tired is.
And for anybody thinking we're over dramatizing this thing,
not at all.
32 hours is the cutoff, and with 3 minutes to go before the official cutoff for the race, you hunched back, ran, and hauled ass across that finish line. Nothing was going to stop you, and there were so many people that were just going crazy, insanely happy that you finished that race. It wasn't just our crew; it was everyone that had seen you.
There was people had tears in their eyes.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's no, hell. I was one of them.
Yeah,
I'm not going to joke that at all.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It was emotional.
Afterwards, I was too. It was emotional, and I crossed the finish line, and just you kind of caught me there. You kept me from falling over forward, and. Yeah, it was incredible, and it would not have happened without all of you guys there, the team there, making it happen. I owe it all to you guys. I mean, yeah, it was tough. It was a lot of effort. It was digging deep, and it was. I went through so many dark and disturbing thoughts in my head that last part of that race. One of the things was like, I got this whole team here. They've been outstanding. They've kicked ass this whole race, and I'm going to let them down here. And that was going through my head. It's like, we got to finish this thing. But then at the same time, I was like, I ain't going to finish this thing. There was so many emotional roller coasters going on in my head. And he said, we got to go. He kept going and pushing me. And without you there on that last back half, I wouldn't have made it. There's no way. Mm-hmm. And when Jeff got in my left ear, that just gave me a little more energy to keep going. And I don't know where it came from. I just knew I wanted to finish the thing. I sure didn't want to go 99 miles and DNF it.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, that was the hardest part about possibly thinking of pulling you was like, man, I've been where you're at. I know where you're at finish wise. I mean, you come hell or high water, I'm going to take this thing out. I'd rather die out here than not finish at this point. And it was hard to let you do that. It was weird saying that, but
I understand. It would, if I was in your shoes and you were running the same thing, I would have a hard time because I'd want to protect you. I'd want you
Exactly.
to be safe, Yeah. So I get it. But yeah, it's one of the hardest physical and mental things I've ever done in my life, and I want to do it again.
Now, to bring up something else though, before people that I guess don't quite understand all this is, we said, well, you crossed the finish line with 3 minutes left. So that meant you come in dead last. Well, first off, you did not come in dead last. There was a guy that actually came in behind you.
that is correct.
But I got to looking at some of the numbers and finishing and this, that, and the other. And there was, if I remember right, I think it was 35% of the people that entered this did not finish.
Yeah.
So that's over a third. Over a third of the people that entered didn't finish.
And there was
So that in itself puts you in a category, I mean,
it was around 400 runners that entered this race too.
Yeah, it was a large number.
400 very competent runners
exactly.
entered this race
And so it was over
and
a
couldn't
third.
finish it.
Yeah, over a third couldn't finish it. So,
Yeah, it was an unreal experience. It was crazy.
it was unreal to watch.
Well, I mean, it's probably one of the most inspirational things I've ever seen too. And I made the comment afterwards, like, if that doesn't make you want to run 100 miles, then I don't know what will.
So I told him that Monday morning, right? This was on Sunday that you finished the race and stuff. So Monday morning, I get up early at 4:30. I go ride my bicycle. And I told him, you should have heard the voices in my head, the conversation in my head that Monday morning. Because I started down the road, and I'm like, man, I'm tired. Like, really? You're tired? Go talk to Billy about tired. What the hell do you think tired is? Right? And I mean, really, I'm like, he has set such an unbelievable bar to measure up to. Right?
Yes.
I'm like, and so the whole time I'm like, well, I'm sore. Really? You're sore? Go talk to, tell me about sore. Go talk to Billy. And then, so yeah, he has set a bar that's just, it's going to be tough.
Absolutely. No, that's right. And speaking of the inspiration to run the 100-mile races, I think there's a few people here looking at doing another 100-mile race at the end of the year, one of which has never done it before. I was thinking about doing it. Old Michael Ruiz over there.
I had to bring it out to the light, didn't
no.
you?
We're committing right now.
We're getting that commitment right here.
There ain't no backing out now. I guess I'll have to go sign up.
I think Mark actually offered to pace you as well.
I heard that.
Well, when I saw his 45-minute time, that one I can do. So we're in good shape there.
So I think there's a lot of positivity coming out of this and productive things and goal setting that is being just blossoming out of this Rocky Raccoon race right now. So,
Well, honestly, this whole movement is just elevating so many people to just new levels, more than anybody's seen on the podcast. I mean, because, how many people actually come in and can make it over here to sit on the podcast and do stuff, and how many people want to be recorded? So the roots are running pretty deep, and it's just bringing everybody to the next bar up. I know multiple people in my side of the family have been improving their health and their physical fitness, and hell, even just reading, getting in there and taking care of business, and so many others. And it comes down to doing stuff like you do and like you do that just really brings us up there. I would have never run a marathon without you two. So that's
Right.
already a huge achievement in my life. Thank you to y'all.
man, that's phenomenal. Thank you. That's huge.
Thank you.
But y'all, everyone at this table and everyone in this house, I can say easily, but just all the people that we've surrounded ourselves, y'all are feeding that back into us. And this
100%.
this is a machine that's creating some perpetual motion, and we're moving along. I mean, the accomplishments sitting at this table in the past year or two are insane. I mean, let's be honest, 100-mile race most recently. I've got a 100-mile race, but those things are cool. But let's talk about real applicable things. Lane Divin, you did the Spartan Ultra. That's something that you're training for a bodybuilding competition. You have no business doing endurance stuff, and you're out here doing extremely challenging things. Michael, you just finished a marathon, and you're looking to find new heights with that as well. Also, both of y'all have taken on 75 hard. Mark, you're taking on 75 hard right now, and you've lost over 60 pounds as well here recently. So
Day 39, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
there's no shortage of amazing people surrounding us. But yeah,
We can go haul in 4 more right now.
yeah, right. Let us do it. No,
Well, I think it's like you said, our circle of influence is growing, whether we know it or not. Or like you say, some people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to speak up or don't want to reach out to you, but they're seeing the podcast or they're seeing the things we're putting on social media. You're having an influence on people, whether you know it or not. And the circle is growing. We're seeing family members that are stepping up, friends that are stepping up. And it doesn't have to be that they're going to run an ultra marathon or they're going to, do a Spartan race. It's just, they may be just improving their own life, reading a book, just getting into shape, maybe going for a walk every day. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or extreme, but those little steps like that can make your life so much better. I love our circle that we have here and the influence, because you guys influence me to keep going and to keep trying things and to keep stretching my limits to see what else we can do. So I feel blessed to be a part of this circle. Honestly, it's crazy.
It's a great aura of positivity around here.
Yeah,
Sure.
it is. It really is. And man, that whole race, that situation, just, it took all of that to a whole new level, reignited fires in all of us and got us going crazy with it. And on social media, there's a ton of people that you influenced as well and had also these same emotional reactions to watching you cross that line like that after such a just crazy, crazy thing to happen at 92 with the back locking up and having to overcome that. But from social media as well, I had a couple of people reach out with some questions, and I wanted to get into that side if y'all are okay with segueing into that now.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And also, one thing I was thinking is if y'all have any questions here at the table, just round robin, jump in, throw them out there. Sorry, still getting over strep, coughing a little bit. But if y'all have anything that y'all want to ask, by all means, throw it out there. But I wanted to get some questions out, and if y'all have answers to these as well or opinions, hit it. So the first question actually sent in by Joe.
Okay.
He's been running a lot here lately too.
He started running himself.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. But did you nap any throughout the 100 miles?
No,
Nope.
not at all. Not at all.
Did you?
And to more of that, you actually got up at 3 o'clock because you couldn't sleep.
I did. Got up at 3 o'clock and just.
So you'd been up 38 hours, 39 hours by the time you finished the race?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long day.
And that might also be part of the contributor to why we should make the plan first and not leave it up to the sleep deprived individual.
Well, exactly.
Not just physically exhausted, but just regular old exhausted on top of it.
Yeah.
No kidding. No, that's exactly right. Next question came in. Sorry. What was your favorite thing to eat at the aid stations?
No, that's my favorite for sure.
Ramen noodles, I gotta say. Ramen noodles and then probably mashed potatoes.
What about those pocket peanut butter and jellies?
Or the pocket cookies,
Pocket
man.
bananas that I.
or Pringles.
Pocket
Oh, man.
Oreos.
That must run in the family because ramen and Pringles were my go-to.
You get that salt out of both of them,
that
really. But
habanero.
the peanut butter sandwiches are great early on, but after a while, you're like peanut buttered out. You're like, I don't want any more of that. Yeah, exactly.
The good thing they say about peanut butter, though, is that it tastes the same coming up as it did coming down.
Fortunately, we didn't have to find that out, but yeah, they had ramen noodles early on, and probably my second aid station I got ramen noodles, and I started fueling early on with that. So
Yeah.
Everyone I saw you at, you were grabbing ramen noodles. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you were grabbing peanut butter, but that's because they actually fit in the pocket and you could get them
I
on the
could
trail.
take them with me. Yeah.
But I swear, if you could have had pocket new
Pocket
news
ramen
there,
noodles.
you'd have been smacking on those. Little straw.
This says most memorable moment from each lap, but I would change that. What was your most memorable moment from the race?
Man, it's got to be that last stretch. I mean, as far as memorable, I guess I'm thinking of memorable as being toughest, darkest, deepest, most challenging moment of the race, and it was that last stretch. I mean, there was a lot of memorable moments throughout the race, but that had to be the most toughest instance in the race for sure.
Well, to take it the other direction, that would seemingly to be the best part then, wouldn't it? Because you said that, the fact that the whole crew was standing there when you come out of the woods.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was.
So that you had both emotions in one event.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was an emotional roller coaster like crazy there, that last bit. And, yeah, to go from dark and then realizing I might actually finish this thing with everybody cheering and everything is just from down here to up here just real quick. So it was incredible. Yeah.
No, I think that was all of our probably favorite
Yeah,
right,
moment
right.
too.
Made the whole thing worth it.
It really did.
It was
Absolutely.
tough. I mean, I don't want to say it was tough compared to what you did, but I mean, it's tough going out there and sticking out in the cold and sleeping on the ground. Which I mean, admittedly, I didn't have to do, but I was trying to be there. I ended up oversleeping and missing you on a couple of those things, but I was trying to be there when you got there. But doing all of that, cooking out there, it's not an easy thing. So going out there and having everybody do that, I think everybody. When you cross that finish line, even when we saw you come out of the woods, we're like, oh, yeah, that's why we come out here and we deal with this stuff.
A finish and getting the buckle is kind of a period at the end of the race, but seeing you go through what you went through was like slapping a big fat exclamation point on
Right.
it. I mean, it was cool.
Well, it was just a culmination of everything, all the efforts throughout the race, y'all stepping up and doing everything that needed to be done to get me where I needed to be in a position to have enough time left to actually finish that thing with the back issues and everything. I mean, like I say, with only 3 minutes left, there could have been so many things that, that made that not happen, but it didn't happen. You guys were just on point the whole race. It was incredible. It really was.
No, absolutely. Rolling into that, did you get any blisters? And if so, where?
Yes, the pinky toes on both feet, especially the left one, was the worst.
Okay.
You want me to describe it?
I'm okay with it, but
Well, it was an entire blister all the way up past the knuckle on that toe. It was just a big old blister, and the toenail was just kind of floating up on there.
Oh man.
a little graphic here on the Next in Line podcast.
Yeah, I got to see it like on Monday, and it looked like gangrene had set in. It was impressive.
It has since
rough.
peeled off last night, and the toenail is gone now. So
There we
it's healing.
Man, I was complaining about my swollen pinky toe.
Okay. Staying in line with that, any chafing, and if so, where?
Only when I took my shirt off and just threw the hydration vest on, and it was right here.
Oh, you got the old nips chafing.
The old nips got a little shape in there, but I mean, really, honestly, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad at all.
Next question is one that we touched on already a little bit, but you can just kind of confirm it. Was your hydration and your nutrition on point?
Very happy with that. Yes, the hydration, nutrition, electrolytes, just everything was great. I mean, and I think I burnt 12,600 and something calories throughout that race. So I knew going in I needed to stay hydrated. I needed to eat and keep my calories up throughout the whole thing. And that, I felt really good about that, where that was throughout the race.
For sure. I mean, you didn't have a single stomach issue throughout that. So that kind of highlights that we were on point with that this go around.
Yeah, I went through a lot of stomach issues because I did not do it well. And I think one of the things that you really try to figure out is like, okay, how do I fine tune the food and the calorie intake to make sure it matches and I don't blow up? And for you to come out the gate on your first 100 miler and really just hit the freaking nail on the head, you did a great job with it. It was cool to see.
Well, the other thing on that, for anybody watching the podcast that doesn't run distance, the stomach can become very sensitive during those times, and so the same with the whole GI tract. And so it's almost like a chemistry kind of trying to work out what's not gonna set you off during that time.
Because you're running and all of your blood's going into your legs and everything, your extremities, trying to keep your body going. And so it's not really, your body doesn't have as much going on trying to digest. So if you eat the wrong thing, you could set yourself off pretty quick. So
Yeah. It's not just that we have weak stomachs or anything,
Right, right.
It's a
Yeah.
very sensitive thing.
It is. There's running jokes about
Running
stomach
jokes.
issues.
That's pretty good. Yeah, good pun.
That's
Nice.
right.
yeah.
Well, next on this list is one that you kind of touched on already too, but what was the first body part to start hurting?
Well, that had to be my left ankle when I did the
high
high
ankle.
ankle sprain. Yeah.
That makes sense. What was the body discomfort that lasted the longest? Probably longevity, that one.
That one probably on that one because it was always there. I knew it was there, kind of aching, dull, like a dull ache. But I knew if I kept moving, it would stay where flexible and keep moving for me. So that was probably the longest one because that was so early in the race that I tweaked that.
That's fair. Now, along with that, what discomfort did you face that you'll remember for years to come? I think we know that answer, but
Well, it's going to be the back.
yeah.
I mean, by far. That was one where where I felt like I couldn't control it. It was controlling me. The ankle, I kind of knew how I could get around that and make myself work through that pain. But the back, that's a whole different world right there.
Back was, that was so unexpected too, just out of the blue. But now next would be, which lap was the toughest?
Oh, it was definitely the last lap.
Last lap, facing those hurdles you had to get over.
If you hadn't had the back issue,
Yeah.
would one of the other laps have been tougher?
That's a good question.
I would say probably lap 3.
Yeah.
After I'd already tweaked my ankle on lap 2, probably lap 3 before I had pacers. That would have been probably the toughest lap.
Okay.
Because you guys came in, took my mind off a lot of the aching and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if it hadn't been for that, and up to that back issue, I felt like the race was going great.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's good. Question wise, as far as the list goes, we move into the post race things. How was the first 48 hours after the race?
dude, let's start with the first 2 or 3 hours.
Let's go. Come on.
I mean, y'all immediately, I sat down on a cooler right by the finish line. When you guys started packing stuff up, y'all helped me make it over to a lawn chair to sit in because I couldn't walk at that point. My body was already stoving up. And then helped me, and Michael physically picked me up and put me in the seat on the car to go home.
Almost
And,
threw you in that thing there.
Yeah. And then real test was when we got to the house. Getting out of the car, that was pretty rough. I actually fell asleep, slept for the 2-hour drive home, and then when I went to get out of the car, it was like nothing wanted to work. The lower back was still having issues. The ankle was super tender, swollen. It looked like a biscuit coming out of the oven. The foot did, with toes sticking out of it like sausage sticking out of a big little biscuit or something. And then just getting in the house, the wife had to put me in an office chair and roll me into the house.
That's what I was gonna ask. Did she need help getting you in the house, or did she get it done by herself?
She did it. I suggested that she call the brother-in-law or the neighbor, and she said, "No, we'll get it." And she got me in the house and took good care of me, and got me in the chair. Then got me through the shower phase of it and everything, and got me back in the chair. And it took a while to make that all happen.
Did she scold you at all?
Oh no.
So there was, I was trying to do video throughout this thing, right? Kind of document it and put one together, and still working on it. But in my head the whole time, I thought we have to do a post-race interview, like a NASCAR, kind of thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so he was so wiped out that I was really, I don't know, should I do it? Should I not? And so I finally kind of pressured him into it and forced him into doing it. And unfortunately, my GoPro died, so I had to do it with my phone. So but to watch the interview, right, and like the way he's talking here, I'm so glad we did it. 'Cause I'll have to show it to you guys, and I'll get it together.
Mm-hmm.
But he almost, to someone that doesn't know what they're watching, you'd swear he's drunk.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really shows the level of exhaustion that he's at, and it's a beautiful ending to it. And like I said, I just got to get it posted and put it out there. But it definitely shows how wiped out he was.
Yeah, that was a good thing to document right there.
And it's awesome because in it he says, and like I said, you can just see the sheer exhaustion in his face. He says, I always say do hard things, and man, that was hard.
Because things start to change too in your mind. I mean, like my perception of that lap that I did with you is way different than what my Garmin says happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my perception of my own marathon is what I was saying immediately after the race was different a couple hours after the race. Just my perception shift and everything, and just going back through the hard data, I'm like, okay, I was a little wrong here and there, and so that was a great.
Yeah, that's why I
thing
kind
to
of
do.
pressed him into it. I'm like, this has got to be a moment to capture.
Oh, I'm glad you did that. It's awesome. Y'all guys got to see that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
Man. Well, a couple more questions. How was the first night of sleep?
Fell asleep in the recliner like for about 4 hours after the shower, and then woke up and then probably slept another 4 hours, and then just stayed in the recliner for the next really day for sure, with everything stoved up. Had some crutches. I was like, oh man, got to go pee again. Dang it! that was a whole production to make it in there.
I bet so.
So, but really, it was because of the lower back, and it was because of the ankle. Like I say, what progressed and what I was happy about was, this was my third ultra race, and every distance has been longer, but my legs really felt like they recovered really fast and really well. The normal stuff, besides the lower back and ankle injury,
So
the hips, knees, everything, all of that stuff felt really good. Mm-hmm. So that wasn't what was keeping me from functioning. It was the ankle and lower back that was still sore. But the lower back eased up really quickly. The next day, the second day, it was really feeling really well. So the ankle was probably, and it's still sore today. The ankle is. It's still not 100%, but it's getting there.
Well, that fast recovery just shows your level of fitness and athleticism there, and how well your training went. Because
for sure,
when you don't nail that, you can be laid up a while afterwards. So
I definitely am happy with how the training went, and I definitely want to modify it going forward for the next one. But I definitely feel like I was way more prepared for this one than any of them so far.
Oh, yeah.
Even going to longer distance and not really understanding that extra distance yet.
Mm-hmm.
But just I felt like physically and mentally stronger as well from the other races. I just felt like I was in a much better place on this race.
Oh, yeah.
Had that 8-mile stretch happen in my first race, I don't know.
Yeah.
So all of it's a building block, on getting stronger and getting more mentally strong and all that kind of stuff. So I was very happy with how it turned out, even though it wasn't exactly how I drew it up in my head.
Yeah.
Shoot. Well, that brings us to one final question before we shut this thing down. And this is probably my favorite question. When is the next 100-mile race?
Woo-wee.
December 2nd, Brazos Bend.
So not only did you decide you're going to run another one, but you've already put it on the map. Put it on the calendar.
Picked it out.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Monday, I'm going to run another race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was close to the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. That's awesome to see.
That was not your attitude during the interview.
No, I was a whoop pup on that one.
Well, it's real easy when you're feeling that kind of way to be like, never again. Give it a couple hours, you're like, well, wait a minute. No, so how many people does that put at Brazos Bend running? Because I know you're planning on doing it. I'm planning on doing it. I think you said something about doing it.
I think I'm going to run Brazos Bend 100-mile this year, which we need to sign up fast because that thing fills up pretty quick.
All right.
Lane Divin kind of hinted about possibly doing it, but
yeah, I think you should be in there with us.
I think.
Leave a comment on what you think Lane Divin should do about December 2nd.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, let's see what the people say.
Leave it to the people.
What's that post you see? 1 like and I'll quit my job?
Yeah.
And then the guy goes and likes it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to do a post just like that, Lane. Don't worry.
Perfect. I think with that, it kind of depends on the logistics because
you bring
all
up
the pacers are running the race. You're going to be pacing each other on the course? Or?
Pacers? We don't need no stinking pacers.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's a great point, and I don't think we can all do what Chance did and make his own pacers.
Well, I don't know. If we all end up hallucinating, we might make our own pacers anyway out there.
There we go.
But no, I think we'd have a good group. I think we'd have a good crew helping us out. We'd have a good base camp, and we could probably get some people that would be willing to run some miles with us. If you're actually interested in doing any pacing or running from the podcast or getting involved in anything we do with the running, don't hesitate to reach out. I will say that.
So let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'd be cool for all of us to get together. If we do need to break it apart and decide to maybe go back to Rocky Raccoon a couple months after that and run a 100-mile race instead, that's an option too. So we can get it figured out, and we'll let everybody know the logistics of it once we talk about it more. But I mean, I'm just excited. We're all gearing up to do some more cool stuff.
Absolutely. And another thing I got to say to anybody listening, if you're waiting to pull the trigger on a race like this, I'm sure most of these people here are a great group of guys to try and run that with, and I'm sure Next in Line Development would be happy to support you.
No,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, if anybody's needing a pacer or crew members or anything, just reach out and let us know. I know that we've kind of touched base with a couple different people, I believe.
Yeah, might end up in Arizona come May,
Maybe.
helping pace.
Yep, be a good time.
But also, I mean, not just races. It's a great point that you brought it up with races, but not just races. If you've got something going on, you want to try 75 hard and don't know where to start. You want to start maybe losing some weight, start working out, need some workout plans, need anything info-wise in the personal development, personal self-help, even health and fitness side of things. We've had to figure this stuff out on our own, all of us sitting at this table, and we would all be glad to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. At Next Line Development on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is the easiest way to do that, by the way. But guys, first, thank y'all all for coming down here and being part of this conversation.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come down here.
It's always a pleasure being on here.
Yeah, thank you.
Always.
Thank you for having us, and of course, we always eat really well too when we're here. And we had a great workout this afternoon. I'm really happy to see that. So
Try to hit the full gambit, a little bit of torture, a little bit of
yeah, a
good
little
food.
bit, a little bit. We were feeling it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Both ends of the
I
spectrum.
still got a run to do after this to complete 75 hard for the day, so that's fun too. But well, guys, anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns about this whole Rocky Raccoon before we put it to bed?
Man, thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Absolutely.
It was impressive.
It's such a awesome experience to be a part of, and something that, you know, I know that you certainly learned quite a few big lessons from it.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, you know, I did too. I'm certain everybody else probably did as well.
Absolutely.
It's something that, you know, is just so inspirational, and something that we'll be able to take, you know, from here on out, just be able to reflect upon, and it's awesome.
Wow, like I say, once again, I mean, I thank each and every one of you for being there and doing everything you did, and I mean, spending your weekend there and sleeping out in the cold and hanging out in the cold all night long while I'm running the race, and I mean, I barely finished under the gun. You know, like I say, everything you guys did was key in me finishing that race, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I don't do that without you guys and without this team, and it's what we have here is something really special, and really thankful for everything. You know, our crew chief out here,
That's right.
dude, was setting up the base camp, being right in the middle of all the planning and everything. I mean, everything is just perfect. I can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I guess that closes us out. Thank y'all for tuning into this episode. If you got something out of it, share the show with somebody who might get something out of it, even if it was some laughs or some entertainment, or you enjoyed the story that was this crazy inspirational story of Rocky Raccoon. But guys, always be prepared for whatever is next in line.